Right, this is the second video for Module 12. We're talking about the electromagnetic force. Today we're going to talk a little bit about photons, a phrase you may have heard like on sci-fi shows or whatever, like in Star Trek they like to talk about photon torpedoes. Well, a photon is a small package of light that acts like a particle. So think of it as like a little bag, a little box of light. And it acts like a particle, like a dust particle, if you figure that it might act like that. So we don't really see photons, and we don't certainly see them being exchanged in the electrical process, but that's because we can't see photons at all. They are so small. And the vast majority of light, we think we see light, but we see a tiny little percentage of light. We'll talk about that more in another module when we discuss light and the electromagnetic spectrum, which light is a part of the electrical process, and most of it we can't see. There's like 1/100th of a millionth, I don't remember what the percentage is, but it's pretty tiny. We can't see photons. We can't see them being exchanged, but there is some data that supports the idea of small packages of light as light acting like little particles rather than just in a completely like a wave. So what we do see is a result of photons being exchanged. The more charge a particle has, the more photons it can exchange. So if you have a particle that is supercharged, it is highly charged, it can exchange more photons on it. Think of a baseball player who is super charged up and ready to go. They're able to throw and catch more balls than one who's taking a nap on the ground. So when an atom is getting charged, we say that it is either losing or gaining electrons. So if it loses its electron, remember electrons are a negative charge. If it loses its electron, it will become a positively charged item. So if you have a balloon and you take away an electron from it, it has become a positively charged balloon. Also, if your object is gaining an electron, which is a negative charge, then it becomes negatively charged. So if you are rubbing your balloon and it is gaining electrons, then it will become negatively charged. Now what's happening is usually if you have two objects that are in contact, like say a comb rubbing through your hair, we all know that if you rub it too many times and your hair starts to kind of stick out, the static electricity. What happens when you're rubbing your hair with that comb is that you are stripping electrons from your hair so that your hair becomes positively charged, and your comb is gaining electrons so it becomes negatively charged. And so when you do that and then you bring the comb near the hair, the negative and positive are trying to attract to one another, and it can make your hair stand out. So electrons can be gained or lost a couple different ways. There are chemical processes that can help you gain or lose electrons. Friction is a very common way or electrons can be gained or lost. If you go on your carpet in your socks and you scoot around and rubbing your feet, you can gain electrons that way, and then when you touch your friend, you can shock them pretty easily. Conduction is another way that you can gain or lose electrons, and induction is another way. So conduction means that they're touching. So electrons can transfer when they touch them. So if you have an electrically charged rod and you bring it near, say, a balloon, you can transfer your charge to the other by touching it. So when an object is touched and is transferring charge by conduction, the same charge is being sent across. So if we have a rod and we charge it to a negative charge and then we touch something that doesn't have a charge, we have transferred our negative charge to that other object. So if you have an object with a positive charge, when you touch another object, it will give it a positive charge. Induction is slightly different. Induction happens when they just kind of get close but don't touch, because if they touch, now it's called conduction. So induction is when you just get close. So what happens in this case is that the electrons in the charged object will repel the like charges in the other object and attract the opposite charges. So you can induce a charge on the other object that is going to be different from the charge in the object you have. So if you have a negatively charged rod and you bring it near without touching, you can create a positive charge in the other object. So go ahead and click on the link, take the quiz, and I will see you in class.